What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be doing yet another episode of Star Wars Battlefront 2 Mythbusters, this time again focusing on some of the star cards in the game and pretty much just testing if they actually do what the description says they do. I did already do one of these maybe a month ago now with some other star cards, and then obviously we did just get some new cards recently as well, and I have done a video testing all of those out and seeing exactly what they do. So if you haven't seen either of those ones, then I will leave some links on screen at the end of the video. Now, I've got to give a shout out to old Jubba for some of the cards in this one. After watching the first one I did, Jubba actually reached out and gave a heap of other cards that he wasn't too sure about as well. So shout out to you, Jubba. I will leave a link down below for those who want to check out his channel. But anyway, with all of that out of the way, we are going to go ahead and get stuck right into it, starting with the light side characters first. And the first card that we're going to be testing is Rey's Damaging Strike card. Now, I believe the description for this card has actually changed. Originally it said something about dealing extra damage after the first hit. However, now it actually doesn't say that anymore. Maybe I'm losing my mind, but I did swear it used to mention the extra damage coming after the first hit. So I wanted to test out to see if that was still the case. This first test was without the card equipped, just to see what the base damage was, and as you can see it dealt 130 damage to Kylo there, so that is the base damage of the ability. And so if the card was meant to deal extra damage only after that first hit, then technically with the card it should still deal 130 damage since that is the first hit. Well, this next clip shows that with the card equipped it actually dealt 169 damage rather than 130, and so obviously that extra 30% damage from the card does actually come into play right away, meaning it is a one hit kill on all regular classes other than the heavy. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, like I said, maybe I have slowly gone insane, but I swear this card did used to say the extra damage after the first hit, and obviously that's not the case anymore. So let me know if you guys thought that was the same as me, or let me know if maybe just I'm an idiot and maybe I was reading it wrong from day one. But I am pretty confident that the description has changed. Moving on, we have two cards from Finn, the first one being the No More Running card that supposedly increases the damage of Deadeye after 3 kills by up to 12 extra damage per shot. First up, I just tested it without the card to see the base damage, and as you can see the heavy's health goes from 400 down to 370, meaning the base damage is 30 damage per shot. I then went and equipped the card, and this is without any kills with Deadeye, just to be clear, and as you can see, rather than 370 health, the heavy now has 358 after one shot, which is actually 42 damage per shot, exactly 12 more than the base damage as the card suggests. However, there weren't actually any previous kills that are meant to be required to increase that damage output. So this could just be an arcade thing, I'm not too sure, but as you can see from the test, this card does actually seem to be broken in the way that it just automatically grants that extra damage straight away rather than after 3 kills, which definitely needs to get looked at by the devs because that's more than a 25% damage increase, which is obviously pretty damn powerful. Now moving on to Finn's second card, which is actually another Deadeye card, and this one is the Raise to Do One Thing card that says Finn's Deadeye has a larger lock-on radius, which I take to mean as it essentially locks on at a further distance, with the radius being from where Finn is standing to the circumference of the area of effect. This first test was without the card equipped, and pretty much what I did was just locked on with Deadeye, and then I just slowly walked back until the lock-on disappeared. Now once it did disappear, I just marked an area on the ground where I was standing so that I could compare it with the card equipped. Then with the card equipped I did the same thing and walked back until the lock-on disappeared, and as you can see when it does disappear I looked straight down like I did in the first test, and the crosshair was literally on the exact same blaster mark on the ground, so that is proof that this card again does not work like it says it does. Again, maybe this is just an arcade thing, or maybe they did measure the radius horizontally, meaning it locks on at a wider angle, although that doesn't really make sense with the description, so I'm not really too sure what the go is with that, and I did actually test that once I thought of it, but those tests didn't really show any difference either, so overall this card again does not seem to be working as it's intended. Now, next up we had a card for Lando, which is his Quick Shock card, and this one mentions if the disabler is detonated within 5 seconds of attaching to a surface, the shock explosion is stronger and enemies are shocked for a longer duration, and that longer duration can be up to 30% longer when fully maxed. First off, I just tested the disabler without this card equipped just to get a rough idea of how long the enemy stayed stunned for, and then I equipped the card, tried again and made sure it was used within those 5 seconds to activate it, and as you can see there really isn't much of a difference in the animation at all. Just to double check that the animation is accurate, I tested it again, but this time while the heavy was shooting, just to see whether maybe the shock stays around longer than the animation shows or something, but as you can see the heavy actually started firing before the animation even really ended, so once again I don't think this card is actually working, although again maybe this is just another arcade bug. Now, next up we had a card for Luke, which is his Epicenter card that grants an extra 40 damage with repulse whenever the enemy is within half of its radius. However, Jubba wanted me to test this one as apparently it actually deals that bonus damage through enemy blocks. First off, I tested it without the card equipped, and just testing the base damage, it came up with a result of 75 damage for the ability. I then obviously just wanted to test whether it does break blocks without the card equipped, and as you can see, it doesn't manage to go through Vader's block. Next up, I tried with the card equipped, and first off I just wanted to test if the card does actually work, and as you can see by that extra damage, the card does work as intended, at least when it comes to the damage output. I then tried with Vader blocking though, and as you can see, it does actually deal that damage through the block. Not all of the damage, but just the bonus 40 damage from the card, which is definitely pretty annoying, and although it's not really game breaking because it is a small amount of damage, I definitely hope the devs can get this one sorted in the near future. Now, next up we have Chewie and his Charging Frenzy card, and this one mentions that Chewie receives less damage while using Charge Slam by up to a 50% damage reduction when fully maxed. Jabba mentioned that this in fact gives 80% damage reduction rather than 50, so I wanted to see if yet another card was broken. First off, I tested the base damage of the EL-16 on Chewie just to get a number to go off, and the regular shot dealt 44 damage, meaning if it does 50% damage reduction, then the next test should deal 22 damage. I then tested as he was charging, and keep in mind the card is equipped at this point and only dealt 9 damage, which is in fact closer to the 80% mark, and so initially I did actually assume that this card was another broken card. Now, luckily, as I was recording this, I actually noticed that the card description says Chewbacca receives even less damage while using Charge Slam, and the fact that it said even less hinted that he may actually have a base damage reduction for the ability, and so I did also want to test that out too, because honestly I just don't really use Chewie, so I had no idea if the ability does actually have a damage reduction already. Again, I tested the base damage just to double check, and then keep in mind that without any cards equipped, you can see that it does drop the damage from 44 down to 32 damage, which does end up being roughly 30% less. So I'm sure some of you do already know this, but Chewie does already have a 30% damage reduction on his Charge Slam without any cards equipped. So technically Jabba wasn't wrong, the card actually does give roughly 80% damage reduction even though it only says 50, but luckily it's not because the card is broken, rather that Chewie does actually just have roughly 25 to 30% base reduction anyway. Now, next up was Boba's Blaster Disabler card, and Jabba mentioned that he thought this one only worked if you directly hit the enemy with it, otherwise it would just blur their vision like normal. With the card equipped, I aimed just over to the left, and as you can see, luckily it does work without having to directly hit the enemy. And I tried with the enemy shooting while it hit them as well, and the result was the same, so luckily this card does work as intended. Now, lastly we have Grievous's Lineup Weaklings card, and this one actually has that description that I was talking about earlier with Rey's card, where it says after one enemy has been hit, Grievous deals more damage with Claw Rush, and it can add up to 50 extra damage. Now, what that card is meant to do is that you hit one enemy, it deals the base damage, which you can see from this test is 130, and then any enemies that you hit after that, it will deal 180 damage instead, but not to that first enemy. Well, upon testing this, you can actually see that on this first hit, it does actually instantly deal that 50 extra damage, so this card is yet another broken card. However, I actually just think this is how the card should be. Honestly, it's no different than Obi-Wan's Defensive Rush card in my opinion, so even though it's broken, I actually do prefer it this way. Unlike some of the other cards in this video, I don't at all feel bad if people use this card from now on, because I don't think it's that big of an issue, but at the end of the day, this card definitely is not working how it's meant to. So that is actually it for all of the cards in this video, guys. As you can see, most of the ones I tested actually don't work how they're meant to. I don't think any of them are really game breaking, to be honest, so I don't really feel guilty showing these cards, but in saying that, I do hope that maybe someone from DICE can see this video, because I do want these to be fixed, so make sure to leave a like down below, and hopefully this video can get out there to the developers. If you guys do have any more cards that you're unsure of that you want me to test out, or just any test from Mythbusters at all, then definitely let me know down in the comments section, as I'm always looking for more things to test out on the Battlefront. If you are new to the channel, then feel free to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any more Battlefront 2 videos or live streams. Thank you all so much for watching, you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
Crush them, make them suffer.